Over the last 5 years, my team and I vetted over 10,000 media buyers. We reviewed their ad accounts, verified their results, their ad spend, and talked to thousands of references. And what I've observed is this. What separates the best media buyers from the rest isn't the tactics they use, it's how they think. The top 1% think very differently about scaling, about testing, about when to kill an ad and when to let it run, or when to double budgets overnight. So I compiled the top questions that we get asked the most and got answers from some of the best media buyers in our verified network, people who have collectively managed over $1 billion in ad spend in this very video. What you're about to see are 9 questions answered by pre-vetted top 1% media buyers. There is no fluff, no theory here, just what's actually working now. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into it. First question, does campaign structure actually matter?
Sure. I think, look, since seeing hundreds of ad accounts during my days in Google and having now been managing clients for over 4 or 5 years, I think the core belief that the success of media buying is, I would say, more so determined by the product, the price point, and the client's ability to deliver and offer good customer service over the actual in-account media buying tactics is substantially more important. So I think a lot of people probably overemphasize on the meticulous details of whether you use single keyword ad groups, whether you do consolidated structures, whether you use smart bidding or manual bidding, etc. And I think the fundamental belief after seeing multiple hundreds of ad accounts at this stage is that the back-end business fundamentals are really what makes or breaks a business. It's not the actual individual media buying tactics. If you have a really solid business and you layer on top of that really solid media buying, that's a recipe for success. But yeah, for me, it's the core business and the core product offering is actually the most important element of the pie.
Next question. Do AI ads actually work?
I split tested myself with literally thousands of ads, AI versus UGC or real UGC, and it really makes no difference performance-wise. Actually, it does because AI you can do at scale. So if you just test more, you're going to have better results. So I highly recommend that you use AI.
Next question, coming from the head media buyer who scaled Grant Cardone's ads from 0 to 50 million. How do you build a high-performing media buying team?
I used to think that specialization was key. So just the most specialized person for every single aspect of media buying and marketing, from, tracking, copywriting, media buyers, really focused in on one network. But what I found, though, just in practice that I became frustrated with is that in the world of marketing, and I guess just knowledge work in general, things become very slow, waiting for that production line to progress. So what I lean towards more nowadays for myself, and I would recommend for others, and if I was hiring, more like full stack marketers. And that doesn't necessarily mean being like perfect at everything. If you understand tracking to a good degree, great. If you can build landing pages that may not look the best, but they're functional, great. And not that one person has to do everything, but if I had the chance to have a 4-person team over a 10-person team and I could make that work, I would go with that. So I feel like in media buying, if I can iterate really quickly, if I can kill things off, not push a task out to the whole team, if I don't really see a future for what we're trying to launch, or that we can't even get the ads live and we need to pivot, just keeping it lean and tight. And I think AI only pushes that further because it gives us more capabilities, whereas people are using AI landing page builders or they're writing copy or things like that. I think we have to lean into that more and more.
Next question, what do most people get wrong about ads?
I understood that the actual value of the ads is less about getting sales directly and more about understanding the customer, using it as almost like market research, where Facebook is the ultimate surveying tool. You can reach billions of people at any given point in time, anytime. And all you have to do is you just put up a piece of creative and somebody happens to click or buy if you're lucky. But that key thing of if somebody actually buys off of a Facebook ad through a random funnel you built or a random landing page you built, that says a lot about, one, the product, the positioning, and the piece of content that convinced them to actually purchase, versus like that's a huge signal. Rather than if you went to a focus group or a market research group and you're like, hey, would you buy my product? The thing is like, would you buy my product? You're paying for an opinion, whereas with Facebook, you're not influencing them other than the ad itself. So if they bought, they actually were convinced to buy the product. And that key insight like how to use Facebook to teach a business, about its own customers, while using creative to test a bunch of different audiences, which then gives the business conviction where to scale. Maybe there's another opportunity not on Facebook. You go to a Reddit group where these people hang out. That's a real gold. But you see, it's like the knowledge is more valuable than the production. Producing content is cheap. Knowing what to produce is very expensive.
And question 5, how aggressively can you scale in 2026?
Yeah, so generally, I feel really good about starting to scale a campaign when I have 10 conversions at or below my KPI. So the only time I'll flex on that is to say, I can't even think of an example off the top of my head, but let's just say somebody was okay with purchases for $500 or less. It's going to take a little while for us to get to $5,000 and 10 sales, right? So at that point, I may start to scale sooner if we've got a couple of sales profitably and things look good. But if it's like e-commerce as an example, or low ticket lead gen or anything like that, I'm going to launch my new audience test, my new ad test, whatever it is. If I get to 10 conversions on that test, then at that point, I'm ready to start scaling. And the good news is, especially with the way Facebook's behaving, is you can scale pretty aggressively at that point once you've got some proven assets. Interestingly, I've just noticed that over the last little while that previously we do 10% bumps, 20% bumps, 30% bumps. I've done 100% bumps on some campaigns, adding hundreds of dollars per day, and the campaigns are taking it. They fall right in stride. We really don't miss a beat at all. And I've seen that pretty consistently, at least over the last couple of months. So it does seem like once you have something that's working, you can absolutely be much more aggressive than we've thought we could be in the past with how you scale it.
And question 6 from Antonio, how do you find the bottleneck in your funnel?
So regardless of your funnel, you need to be tracking every single step of your funnel. And for every step, you're going to have two metrics. You're going to have what you can call it whatever you want, but results or volume metrics, and you're going to have conversion rate metrics. And I think that's a really good framework for you guys who want to think about media buying, right? So for example, what's the result metric of your opt-in page? It's going to be the number of leads. Or that's the next step, or from this step for people who got here, is going to be landing page views or opt-in page views if you want. So this is the result metric. And what's the conversion rate metric is going to be your opt-in rates, right? So as long as you're tracking the volume of people getting to every step of your funnel and the conversion rate between each step, then you can compare it, right? Then you can compare it. You can start doing split tests for every single step of your funnel. And then for every single step of your funnel, if it's going down, it's a losing split test. If it's going up, it's a winning split test. That's the basics of it. Having said that, for a typical VSL to call funnel, because I've ran maybe hundreds of those literally, the main ones are going to be the opt-in rate. It really depends. I've crushed ROI is king, right? So I've crushed with 5% opt-in rate and I crushed with 50% opt-in rate. So it varies a lot, but a good initial benchmark is at least 20% opt-in rate, mostly. Some people say 25, some people say 15, I say 20. Then you're going to have the lead to call rates. A typical good one is between 7 to 10%. And then you're also going to have, obviously, your show rates more than 60 or 70% ideally. You're going to have your closing rates more than 10% on booked calls, or more than 20% on 20 or 25% on show calls. Then you're going to have your lead to qualified rates and so on and so forth. But these are the main ones.
And next question, what's the fastest way to find winning ads?
Every offer is naturally going to have a few different avatars. And I think on our messaging, a lot of times we fall into this trap. I don't want to say it's laziness. I think there's an element of it that's just like we can only do so much as a media buyer in a certain day. But we tend to fall into one lane, right? It's like, okay, well, this works, so let me just do more variations of this, instead of saying, hey, but I know this person has 2 or 3 other types of customers. We just haven't figured out the messaging for that. So let me just run a couple. You don't even have to change your copy or your creative writing. Just change the opener. Just change the hook. Just test some different hooks. And it sounds crazy, but I've started doing, for every copy variation I run, I'll test 3 to 5 hooks. So the main copy and the call to action are all the exact same. It's just that first sentence is different. And man, it would blow your mind, the difference in performance from just that one sentence. And so I did that recently for a client of mine, and we tested 5 variations. 4 of them did absolutely nothing. 1 of them did really well, and that one has now come on to be our top copy variation. But it's like, had I just led with the first hook that I had for that, it would have been a failure. I would have given up on it. So I just think there's something to getting a little bit more granular about some of the things that we're thinking about testing, and just having a reason for it. Testing, like I said, different hooks for different avatars is just one example. Lots of ways you could do that.
And next question, when should you kill an ad?
So once again, it comes back to what's the conversion point. It's going to give you the most amount of information for the least amount of spend. So you're clearly not spending enough to get a sale every day, and you don't necessarily want to just be cutting once every 2 or 3 or 4 days, right? So you go back one notch. What's the one prior to the sale? Probably is the cost per checkout, right? So maybe in this funnel for your specific type of spend, I would take your ideal target cost per checkout and do 2x. Right? If it's over 2x your ideal cost per target, your target cost per checkout, I'm cutting it. If it's below that, I'm letting it run until I get a sale, right? And then you do 2x on your target CPA as well, which is very important. And probably you're not there, but you need to target it, right? So for example, if our target CPA, cost per acquisition, is 1,000, even if it has a good cost per checkout, if it spends 2,000, so 2x with no sales, I cut it as well. And then obviously, maybe you need to be doing massive CRO in funnel split testing so you can actually improve your metrics, because maybe your funnel is just really bad too.
And last but not least, how do you structure your creative testing?
Too many people just throw shit at the wall, hoping that something sticks, and it does. But when something works, you don't know why. And when something stops working, you don't know why. The key thing you change is the audience. Like, who is the ad for? Number one. Most people, that's where everyone goes wrong. People focus on, how do I reach my person? What do I show the person? What format? What ad do I copy? Who has the best ads? But the real question for your business is, who on the other end, who are my potential customers? Is it a mom? Is it a dad? Is it an entrepreneur? Is it someone that's a business owner or has an agency, right? You speak to each of those people differently. Therefore, the tests that you want to set up have different creatives, different messaging. Once you understand your audience, then you figure out the angle. What are you saying to the specific audience? You can talk to an entrepreneur about making more money. You can talk to an entrepreneur about saving more money. You can talk to an entrepreneur about freedom. 3 different angles for the same audience, of course, 3 different creatives. Once you know that the best ad is an entrepreneur who wants freedom, then what are the 3 or 9 or 20 most compelling ways to make content around that? Talking head video, maybe a testimonial from somebody else. But like, it's an inverted pyramid where people start with, like, what concepts do I do first versus who am I speaking to? Why would they buy? And then what do I show them? That's the key thing. But you only test one at a time at each stage. Once you have the audience with confidence, angle, format, and you constantly repeat.
All right, I hope you got some nuggets out of this one. This is just a glimpse of how top 1% media buyers actually think. And if you want direct access to people like this and instant insights from people who are actually scaling, that's what we built Catalyst for. You can get your ads, your funnels, and your questions hammered on by multiple A-player perspectives. Just click the first link in the description below to join. And if you're looking to hire a pre-vetted top 1% media buyer to run your ads and strategy, just go to mediabuyer.com. That's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.